Hey, Warrior Saints, glad to have you beautiful people with us this week as we are answering questions that come in through the comments. We got a fabulous one yesterday on YouTube that I'm going to tackle today, and I'm going to read the comment for you first. How do we as Orthodox Christians explain the role of needing a church community to Christians who don't see a need to be a part of a church in order to be considered Christian? Same way we explain it to Orthodox Christians. The reality is everyone thinks that they don't need the community at large. They have this mindset like, I can go directly to God. We hear it a lot when we talk about confession. We hear it a lot just from people that think that they don't need to necessarily get up on a Sunday morning and go to church because of whatever excuses they're coming up with. Oh, it's my only day off. Oh, it's the only day I have to sleep in. Oh, it's too much effort to get there in the morning. Oh, the Steelers are playing at the same time as liturgy starts, hypothetically speaking, asking for a friend. The reality is that we are built to need community. Let me say it a different way. We are created in a way that requires that we live in community. We see it from the first book of the Bible, from the first page, from the first chapter. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, we hear, "Let us make man in our image and after our likeness." Why the plural? Well, the plural is plural because as Orthodox Christians, we say that there is one God, that he is Trinity. And as Trinity, we hear that the Trinity exists in a never-ending procession of mutual love. So we are built in the image and likeness of a God who is by definition community. That quote's not mine, by the way. That's Metropolitan Kallistos Ware. He talks about it in the Orthodox way in the chapter on the Trinity. I think it's chapter 3. But it's to say that we are created and designed and built to be in the image and likeness of a God who is by definition community. A community that exists in a never-ending procession of mutual love. This is hammered home for us in everything that we see going on around the marriage service, right? I just did a premarital class this past Saturday, and I talked about this, that we are then designed to be in that community, which means that we need to find others to live with. But these communities that we live in don't live in isolation. They live as a reflection of the truest community that is out there. And the church community that is gathered together in the building that we actually call the church is the community that is gathered together, that is called together for a specific purpose, so that we can learn what it means to live in community, and we can go out and reflect that community that is brought together in the liturgical life of the church everywhere else that we go. So what do I mean by that? We use the word church to mean our community, to mean the building, to mean the physical campus, to all kinds of different things, to mean the global church. In Greek, the word for church is ekklesia tou theou. It comes from the word kaleo, which means to call, and with that phrase ek, that is at the front of it, it means to call out or to gather together. But what's really interesting is it is written in the imperfect tense, which means that that calling out, that gathering, that action of bringing together the community that is the church community is something that started in the past and has not yet finished. It's something that is an ongoing process. And that community specifically is further geared, designed, and pointed towards God, which is where tou theou comes in. So the ekklesia tou theou, the church, the community, the gathering together, is this community that has as its very heart being focused and moving towards God. This procession of mutual love that the Trinity exists in is one that we then are able to live in through our communal practices, which, and by that I literally mean by taking communion together. because it is in our reception of the Eucharist that that community is formed. It's really interesting. St. Basil, in his Divine Liturgy, St. Basil the Great, who was a 4th century saint, who is one of the styles of liturgy, or the liturgical prayers that we read are attributed to him, actually says at just before communion, but immediately after we ask the Holy Spirit to descend on the gifts, as for us, partakers of the one bread and of the one cup, unite us together. Goes on to say, cause the wars to cease, cause schisms to cease. Like, everything is focused on bringing us back together to actually have community. Now, why do we need a church community versus all these other communities that are out there that we can be a part of? Kiwanis Club, Rotary Club. I'm a member of the Delta Chi fraternity, the PTO at your kid's school, the what's it called? The country club down the street that you want to be a part of. These are all nice. The Facebook community, the Instagram community. We're not even getting there yet. All of these communities do not have as their main focus and their main goal bringing everyone together for that common goal, for a common purpose. They have similar interests and similar likes, but to have this focus to be towards love for God and love for neighbor, it doesn't exist. Then you get into the realm of social media and all of these false communities out there that are telling you we are a community. So you need to dislike all the other communities that are out there, and you need to go after all of those other communities that are out there. Their goal is not unity, right? I apologize to tell you what I'm about to tell you. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party are not interested in unity. They are interested in beating each other. If we are ascribing to that community, saying, I don't need other communities, then we are missing the boat. We have lost what that actual community that we are built and designed to live in, which means that we are always out there craving community, what it actually looks like. So, that's what I tell people when they ask me, how do we explain why we need a community? Or I don't need to go to church, I can just watch it on TV, right? And that's not new because of the pandemic, right? People have been watching the Divine Liturgy broadcast from the Middle East via satellite dish for decades, right? It's just the pandemic now puts it on our laptops because now we all started live streaming. The reality is all of it misses the mark of forming us by a true community that is called out of the world, called out of the junk, called out of the mire that all these other communities are putting out there as being the truest sense of community, so that we can find the one true community, which is the gathering together focused on God, teaching us, forming us, showing us what it means to be warrior saints, to be men and women who are willing to put our will aside for the sake of other. Because that's ultimately what we learn by living in community. When we don't have community, we default to narcissism, thinking that we're the only thing that matters. But when we actually live in community and we see that others matter, and that they matter so much that I need to put away what I'm looking for so that I can focus on what they need, that's when we're up in the middle of the night with our kids, sitting with them, holding them because they're having a little bit of a rough night, despite my desire to have sleep, and just let them cry it out, which sometimes they still have to cry it out. But that's another story for another day. I hope this answers your question. As we're rambling on and I'm just going on and on talking about this. But I love this topic. So thank you for the question. And if you have other questions, this is what we're doing this week. We are answering questions that you throw out there in the comment section. So make sure you comment below and tell us what your questions are. We'll be back again tomorrow answering more. And until we see you then, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.